see if everybody can hear me. Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay, perfect. Sorry about that. We have our regional leadership Zoom every Monday at 1 o'clock. So it goes from 1 to 2. And so I always find myself getting off of that one and then digging around for the link to this one. So my apologies for just now getting on here. But I hope everybody's doing well. Okay, so just a couple of notes while people are logging on. Tomorrow at 11 o'clock is Talk About It Tuesdays. So we will have the whole leadership team there talking about all the goings on in the market center and in the market. And then on Wednesday at 1 is going to be Instagram for Realtors. So I will be teaching that class. And then we also have a couple of guest helpers that are going to be on there as well. So that is Wednesday at 1 o'clock. So just get those things on your calendar. Anybody have something, some good news they need to share, something they're just itching to tell? Going once? Boom. Nobody has anything exciting or itching to tell. Sorry, I don't look at Lisa. Lisa, hopefully by the end of the day today, you'll have something exciting to share. We'll see how that goes. Okay, so it's been an interesting few months. We'll just call it interesting. Let's go from there. Let's say that. And one of the things that I think with spending more time on social media, and seeing what's going on there more, I've really thought a lot lately about what it means to be an influencer. So my daughter is 18, and so obviously an influencer means something probably very different to her than it does to us. And so the question for today is, what is the difference between influence and fame? Influence and fame.
Well, fame means a lot of people know you, but
right.
it doesn't necessarily mean they influence you.
Right, or they may like you.
An influencer nobody may know them but you, but you may have a neighbor or a grandparent or an aunt and uncle who's an influencer that has no fame, and then you have a famous actor or actress that has fame that doesn't influence me one iota.
Okay. That's great. That's great. What else?
An influencer is somebody who influences you to buy something. They're somebody who carries weight and their opinion matters. Fame, they don't really care.
Okay. And which one do you think people probably seek after most?
Influencer.
Smart ones do.
I think I would rather follow an influencer than somebody with fame.
But I think the thing that people try to be more often is famous, right? And whether it's, and I'm not talking famous like, Jennifer Aniston or, that type of thing.
Mm-hmm.
I'm talking about likable, recognizable, popular. I feel like people go for that, right? That's the ultimate for most people. That's what's important to them. And so it's a huge challenge for me, and has been, being in a leadership role. It's been a huge challenge because it has never been a goal of mine to be famous or likable, or I want to please everyone. I want to help you, and I want to help you make changes that are going to be significant in your life. However, being popular and doing the things that, I don't know, but it's just never been a focus of mine. And it's been a challenge because a lot of people need that. A lot of people need that, that social interaction. They need to feel liked by people or acknowledged by people. So I feel like when we talk about influence and fame, and the reason I'm talking to y'all about this is because I think it's so very important in what you do. And so how can we influence the people around us, whether it's our coworkers? I mean, heck, some days it's ourselves, right? But especially your clients. How do you go into that listing appointment or sit down with a buyer consultation and you influence them in such a way that nothing anyone else could possibly say is going to come close? So it's digging a little bit deeper. So influence is the ability to impact people's opinions and actions. And fame is simply being widely known. So I know a lot of people that are widely known. They're very, very active on social media, and people that don't know them think they like them because they seem very likable. Does anybody else feel that, get that, see that? Okay, yeah. And so I feel like some people are very good at positioning themselves at being likable and doing the things that can sometimes be what I consider to be not superficial. What's a better word? Superficial has a negative connotation, but maybe not something as meaningful, right? So it says, we don't want to just be known. We want to help people make positive choices in their lives. So many people mistake being famous for being effective and impactful. And so being effective and impactful, we're going to talk about just a little bit more. The type of power that lasts longer and leaves a legacy is not fame, it's actually influence. And when you help others make decisions and you help others take action, then you actually change their world. So it's getting someone to do something or influence them in a way to do something that they would not have done without you. Getting someone to think in a little bit different way or take a leap or act upon something that they would have never done without your influence. Those are the things that are important to me, right? If you like what I wear, because I mean, there's a big variety in it. If you like what I wear or what I post on Facebook or what I say, those things aren't necessarily as important to me, but being able to impact someone in a way that will help them is very important. And so when we talk about being an influencer, leadership just naturally falls into that. So whether you all want to consider yourselves leaders or not, you are, right? It's just the industry that you're in. So how, otherwise you're just like another one in the flock, right? How are you going to stand out and be different? How are you going to influence? And I don't get me wrong, I definitely think the social media part is critical. I think that people need to at least feel like they know you a little bit. I think sometimes that's what's even going to maybe get your foot in the door to influence them in one way or another. But leadership requires trust. And so in order for you to get people to trust you, they need to feel like they know you, right? And vice versa. It's why we ask certain questions of our clients. We want to get to know them a little bit better, know their needs a little better, and start that trust. And then once you have that trust, then the influence can follow. So people don't care who a leader is as long as they can trust the leader. And I know you all have seen that. We've seen that on a national level. We've seen it on a local level. When you feel like you can't trust your leadership, there's really nothing they can say or do that's going to influence you in any way, because what they have to say doesn't really have any bearing anymore. Does that make sense? So it's figuring out where you fall in all of that in this industry. And the reason I say that is because right now there is so much potential for you all to just step in and take over and dominate, because so many people are just kind of throwing in the towel, right? Whether it's we're all just completely worn down from the chaos that has been for the last few months, whether it's not knowing what they're going to do with their children, whether it's dealing with emotional issues of kids that have been in sports their whole lives and now it's their senior year and they aren't getting to do that. I mean, there's just so many things right now pulling from us that I feel like we forget about the opportunity. We get beat down, and we're going to talk about mindset here in just a second. So this was a little excerpt that I had found. It was in like a Craig Rochelle podcast or leadership something. And he says to cultivate that trust, he was talking about a gentleman, Mike, first killed preferences and looked at the people, meaning he was going to lead in a way that was best for the people on his staff, not lead in a way that was necessarily comfortable for him. Comfort was second priority to taking care of the people he was leading. And he says, kill the thing that is comfortable. And I think right now, I know right now that the things that are normally comfortable for us that cause us to either go into our shell or not reach out to our database or not post or not lead generate, or the things that we know we need to be doing, the things that we don't do on a normal basis the way that we should. Now all of a sudden we have this pandemic and these exceptional circumstances that cause that to expand, that cause those I don't want to say activities because it's kind of lack thereof, but those inclinations or those tendencies, they cause those things to expand. So if you wanted to kind of retreat and not be out in the spotlight before, you really want to retreat and not be out in the spotlight now. If you just wanted to dominate before, you just want to crush now. All of those things that you are, those things that make up who you are all now being embellished. And so we have to really look at that when we say kill the thing that's comfortable. What is something, and you don't have to share, I would love for someone to share, but what is the thing that is comfortable for you that you feel like is holding you back?
Sometimes it's easier to send an email than pick up the phone.
And almost always it's easier to send an email than pick up the phone, right? Yeah, I mean, it is. It's just easier to shoot a text. Yeah. What else?
It's easier to go blank on this screen than to have your face seen by everyone else.
Yes, it is. Let's see, who can I make fun of that won't? Oh, Rachel Vaughn. Rachel's probably like working her real job. So she's just on here.
So real estate's not a real job?
Yeah. No, being on this Zoom is not a real job for her.
Oh, gotcha.
You know, she works
Multitasking.
What are you doing, Rachel?
I'm currently working on the Kramer Smart Plan, and I started the Retention Smart Plan today, so I now have 387 emails. No, it's good. It's good. I've got a lot of good responses, so thank you all.
Thank you, honey. Thank you. So yeah, I mean, it's true, right? It's like whatever's most comfortable for us, that's what we're going to do. So we've got to just think of that phrase, kill the thing that's comfortable. And so he talks about different ways to build trust, and one is to be consistent, and one is to be stable, and one is to communicate often and well. And so being consistent, again, is very hard in this environment, because today you may be in a fantastic mood, and tomorrow you may want to kill everyone in your path, and Wednesday you may be pressed and in a fetal position in the corner, and then Thursday you're back on top of the world, right? Like, it's very, very difficult to be consistent right now. Does anyone else feel that? Maybe I'm just mental.
That pretty much describes my entire July. So,
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Well, thank you for sharing that. I appreciate that, because I think that we all tend to think, oh, Melanie has it all together, or Kim has it all together, and I'm a hot mess. And, and that's just not how it is. We're all a mess. It's just how we navigate through it, right? I have this saying that I say to my kids all the time: you don't drown by falling in the water. You drown by staying there.
That's
So
right.
you have to figure out what you're going to do to get yourself out of that situation, right? It's like this no quit, will not die attitude. So, I mean, I'll say with all of that, COVID has gotten me completely off my game. I'm a fairly consistent person. I think anyone that talks to me on a regular basis, if someone asked a question and said, how would Kim Buckner answer that? People that talk to me pretty regularly, if you ask 50 people, they're all going to answer it the same way. I think I'm pretty consistent in where I stand with certain things. Now, stable, and then the last one, communicate often and well, have been incredibly hard for me. This has been, especially just the circumstance of coming into a new market center, being in an area where I don't really know people, don't really know the area. And I had January and February, and that was great. And we were getting rolling and everything was wonderful. And then we had a couple of weeks in March and it was great. And then boom. And we're physically out of here. And people have kind of retreated. And the opportunity, just like Lisa said, it's easier to send an email than to pick up the phone. So for the first, I know March and April, the company I think really was just trying to get a hold on it all. And I would literally be in my office, in my home, which was in Chicago, right? I would be physically in my office from 7:30 in the morning, because we're an hour behind there. So I'd be there from 7:30 in the morning until like 7 o'clock at night. And my husband was like, what in the world are you doing in there? We would have like 5 and 6 hours worth of Zoom calls. And then I would get off those, and you can only imagine the phone calls and text messages and emails that had to be returned. And it was just nuts. And so I felt like by the beginning of May, I was already so far behind on where I was. Perfect example, our roster. Getting through the roster and just talking to people. Doing that on top of everything else that I've been doing has just been nuts. And I feel like it's caused me to not be stable. I've not been able to communicate often and communicate well because I just didn't have enough hours in a day. And so thank God we brought Rachel on the first week of June. And that has been a godsend. It's been so very helpful in getting some of these systems in place of following up and touching and getting that information out there consistently. And it's, even though we're just getting started, it's starting to happen, but it's really thrown me off. So not only do we have COVID, I've been selling my house, and that's been a nightmare and another story. Physically trying to move, my daughter going away to college. I mean, she literally asked me this past weekend, when are we going to start getting ready and getting stuff for me to take with me to school? I mean, it's like just not enough hours in the day. And I did redeem myself a little bit. I was like, go look at my Amazon cart. There's a lot of stuff in there. I've been thinking about it. You're not an afterthought. It just hasn't happened yet. So the biggest piece of why I'm telling you this is because you just have to admit that you're not going to be perfect, and you have to operate in humility. People just have to know, you know what? I'm trying. I know there's no try, right? But I'm trying, and I'm doing the very best that I can today. Right? Tomorrow, I may be able to do a little bit better. And Friday, it may be worse. But for where I am today, right now, I'm doing the very best that I can. So anybody have any thoughts on that? Anything they want to add to that? Is anyone else feeling that pain? Yes. I mean, I know I'm not the only person that's going through moving or COVID or a kid going to school or whatever, right? And so then when that happens and you get in that, the emotional piece comes in. It's one thing for people just to get on your nerves, or the normal parts of real estate, right, that are crazy and chaotic. But it's a whole other thing when you suddenly feel like you have a little bit of emotional instability, or you aren't as emotionally confident as maybe you thought you were. And it makes it really, really difficult to exude some type of confidence when you're sitting down in a listing appointment, or God forbid, Zooming a listing appointment, right? It's even harder to create that connection this way than it is in person. So that leads us into the next piece, which is growing as a leader requires work. And it's the last thing anyone wants to hear right now when they don't want one more thing on their plate, or they already can't handle what's on their plate, or they've wiped everything off their plate and they still can't handle it. So please don't come at me right now and tell me that I got to work at being a leader, right? But you do, and I'm going to be honest with you. So some people have really great ideas, and some people I think have natural talents, but they really only want to use them or apply them if they think that they're going to get used. Does that make sense? Like someone that wants to teach a class, and maybe they only want to teach the class if they know there's going to be a lot of people that show up, and then all those people are actually going to go and implement what they teach. Or someone who, you know, Jamie comes to me and asks me for my advice on what to do with a deal, and I give her my advice, and then she doesn't listen, and she does something very different than what I told her to do, and so then I just don't ever want to help her again because she's not going to listen to me anyway. Does everybody get where I'm going? Okay, so some people, and not all people, I think on the right day we all may be that way, but some people just don't want to put forth that effort unless they know it's going to be used. But being willing to put in the work without a guarantee is what actually teaches you the stamina and the pride and the problem solving, the resilience that you need. Working on those skills and doing all of those things, whether they're necessary or not, is just going to prepare you for when it's needed. And Mike Todd says, even if something doesn't work here, it's making you better for there. So when you feel like you're maybe doing something and it's not getting you anywhere, or you aren't getting anything back out of it, or what have you, right? Like it really is, because it may not be for this moment. It may be for another moment. Just don't give up. Like every single project or task or transaction or interaction, it's all a chance for you to get better. You just have to see it that way, right? Like, what am I learning from this? Because I had to change my verbiage, because I used to say why a lot, you know, when I would have just a crap day or a crap week, and I would just be like, why is this happening? Why, you know, it was just my word, and I would say it all the time. And then I just had to switch that language up and say, okay, what am I learning from this? I'm learning, you know, some days I'm learning that I can actually get through the day and not go to prison, right? Like some days that's just as good as it gets. You know, some days I'm learning that I have a lot more self-control than I thought I did, right? Like sometimes it's just whatever it is, but it's just switching that language a little bit to be more aware. So if you don't view early refusals and failures as some type of development, if you avoid putting the work in and being proactive, then you're not really going to be ready to shine when the time comes. Yes, never compare your insides to someone else's outsides. And I can't see the whole thing. Yeah. And something that another one that's very similar is don't compare your chapter 1 to someone else's chapter 20. People have lived before you. People have, everyone has different experiences. And I think if we could be more mindful of that would help. But I think it's super, super easy to compare ourselves to people around us. And, oh, I wish I could do that. Or, you know, she's so good at that. Or I wish I could articulate things in that way. Or I wish I had that kind of self-control. Or I wish I could list 10 houses a month, or whatever it is. But you just have to be able to look at all of those things as opportunities for development, that you're actually kind of like you're going through the R&D process of being a business person. Single projects and ideas don't usually result in advancement. It's years of stable, consistent, proactive investment result in advancement. So when you think of, realtors are very prone to this, because I'll see a lot, they'll have these ideas that they want to do or these things that they want to implement, and it doesn't go quite right, and they get aggravated that something didn't happen the way that they want it to. And it's helping them understand that it's years of this, right? That it's going to get you to where you want to be. Helping and contributing where you currently are, even if it doesn't always get used, still does great things for your leadership. Your most valuable leadership tools will be learned prior to the season when you need them. So the reason I tell you this now is, I don't know how many of you all are feeling it, but April and May were a little, let's call it lackluster, right? And then June and July have been insane. And which I think is also going to lead to probably a little bit of a crazy fall. And what goes up must, yeah. So the most valuable leadership tools will be learned prior to the season when you need them. If you don't have a shift book, come and see me. I have some here. There are some great tips. I just think that we need to be very, very mindful of everything that we're going through right now and use it as kind of a stair step for where we're going and where we want to be, because a lot of people just aren't going to do it. A lot of people are whining and complaining. And if you're one of those people, no judgment. I'm just simply saying, try to look at it a little bit differently. People are just going through some terrible, terrible things right now. And I just, I have a hard time, and I didn't realize how bad it was. And my daughter had a friend the other day that was upset, and she was crying. And Morgan calls me afterwards, and she says, I felt so bad because she's sitting there crying, and I just froze because I didn't know what to do. She said, it's so awkward. I'm not great at comforting people. And I realized that was probably something that she witnessed as part of home, is that it's just not, that little piece is not always there. And so my point in saying that is what has been going on the last few months. People have found themselves in just some terrible situations, and there's deaths and there's depression and there's been illness, and financially things are difficult. And it's just been a really hard roller coaster, I think, for a lot of people. And it's been an opportunity for me to flex that emotional part that I normally maybe don't. So anyway, there's that. Anybody have anything on that about learning a lesson? And maybe you learn it not quite when you need it, but it's preparing you for another time. Okay, I'm not going to cut you off, but I'm going to move on because we've got, okay, so enemies of influence. Inauthenticity is the #1 killer of influence, right? I think that there are times that maybe I'm a little too authentic. I think I could tone that down a little bit. But I think that people, your clients, they're just like kids and dogs, right? They smell it from a mile away if you aren't truly authentic in what you're doing. So you better have the true desire or the true intent in the very beginning. Because if it's really just about like making a commission or beating someone else out, whatever, right? Like if you don't have the right intention on the front end, I think people are going to sense that. They're just going to smell it. But it's the #1 killer of influence. And then flakiness and inconsistency are more enemies of influence. Like what can you do to be more consistent? And we'll talk a little bit about this in some of the social media stuff. But a huge one right now that just please be mindful of, because it's something that has really gotten me lately. Being overly tired. Being overly tired is it's just another enemy of influence. And you may not think it, but it's one of those things of when your well is dry and when your cup is dry and you don't have anything to pour into other people's cups, leaders become less potent when they're mentally and emotionally tired. And I have felt that. I have felt that a great deal in the last couple of months of traveling back and forth between Kentucky and Ohio and Illinois. And okay, now I'm going to drive up to Illinois for a few days and I'm going to pack some boxes, and then I'm going to drive back to Kentucky and I'm going to unload some boxes, and then I'm going to drive here and be here for a couple days, and then I'm exhausted. And so I have found myself literally when I am in Lexington, on the weekends, laying down and resting in the afternoon. Not anything I've ever done. I didn't even do that when I had little kids. I've never been that person. And yet I feel that potency being sucked away a little bit. And I know I have to do something differently, right? I have to take better care of myself. I need to eat better food, which is difficult when you're in a car most of the time, right? Just being mindful of what you need to do, because someone will call you. Someone will call you and want to go and see a house, or they're going to want to possibly list their home, whatever the case may be, right? They're going to call you and you have to be ready. You just can't get caught off your game. It's just, anyway. Is anyone else feeling that? I mean, I know everybody doesn't have the same circumstance. Jamie, are you tired, girl?
Yes, I'm very tired, and what you're saying is very true. I actually just had a conversation with somebody on Friday. And now that you're saying all this, I'm just realizing like just how tired I was, and I didn't really care about the conversation probably in the way that I should have for this particular conversation. But
it does. It zaps your potency.
Yeah, but I am tired. I mean, not just like work, and then I've got things going on with my son, and then it's like I just got licensed, and then it's like figuring out the future. It's just like, let's just keep piling them on. It's like, like backpack analogy they use in my husband's field. Like you just throw these rocks in a backpack until the backpack gets too heavy. And like, I feel like my backpack is probably heavy.
Well, yeah. And then eventually, you know, the heavier it is, and you're literally going around like this, and you don't even realize that's how you're going around, you know, until all of a sudden somebody's like, dude, why aren't you, you know, stand up straight? Because you just don't even see it. It happens so slowly. You just don't realize it. And I think that we're all going through that in one way or another right now. And it just, I say all the time, give me a little grace, right? Like just give me a little grace, because I try hard, and I'm doing my best. And there are times when I just don't even realize, right? You have these blinders on, you just don't even see what you're doing or realize what you're doing. And then all of a sudden you're like, oh my God, that's a real thing, you know, and you just, but it happens. It just happens. Let's see here. Oh yeah. Learning to lead is also about leading your client at a high level. And it is so true. And it goes back to what I was saying in the beginning, about being a stronger leader to set yourself apart. And when you come in, right, with that presence of, I've got this under control, I have you in my charge, I am going to take care of you, I know what I'm doing, I'm the professional, and I'm going to listen to you, and I'm going to fight for you. When they feel that sense of trust, there's just really nothing that your client won't do for you, right? Haven't you heard the saying, if you want something done, give it to a busy woman? It's so true. It's so true. We're just nuts. We are absolute nuts. But yeah, being able to lead your clients at a high level is what sets you apart from most agents, because it's just not something that they invest in. So when I say to you all, yeah, this is another task to put on your plate, this really is that development piece that's going to serve you for years to come, not just in the short term. And so then the last thing that I want to touch on is technology. That technology can actually allow you to connect better. Because right now, you know, things are a little crazy, but the goal is always going to be to create an authentic connection, right? Some type of just a connection. So whether that's texting or Facebook or Instagram Live or YouTube or whatever it is that you do, it's creating some type of a connection with that person, that they feel like they know you, they feel some type of influence from you. So just a couple of little, actually three little exercises. So the first one is, on a scale of 1 to 10, gauge your attitude toward investing hard work before you have a yes. So for instance, someone that may want you to run comps on their home that has not signed a listing agreement with you. So on a scale of 1 to 10, what's your attitude toward investing hard work before you have a yes? Are you willing to work hard on something you believe in, even if it ultimately doesn't get used? And are you open to learning from the experience, or do you default to grumbling? I would never grumble. And so just think of that. Am I willing to put in the work without that solid yes? And so number 2, and this is the technology piece, and I love this. Make a list of the things that you excel at in person. Are you a great teacher? When you sit down with your clients to explain the contract or to explain to them what they need to do to prepare their home, do they connect with you? Do you have that teacher mentality of they instantly want to do whatever it is you want them, right? What is it that you excel at? Are you great at social media? Are you great at the compliance piece? Are you a strong negotiator? What is it that you excel at? So make a list of those things that you excel at under normal circumstances in person, okay? And then try to find ways to actually scale and duplicate that through technology. So come up with those things that you know you are really, really good at, and then let's just figure out how to translate that over and scale it in another way. It may be a YouTube channel, it may be texting, it may whatever, right? There's all types of different things that we're all good at. So if you're great at leading meetings, consider opening certain meetings up via video, and maybe it's to your whole database, or maybe it's to a farm, or whatever. If you're great at making, if you're great at when someone has a great idea and you're the person that makes it happen, well, how do you do that over technology? Maybe it's, again, social media or social media groups or that type of thing. But anyway, just giving people maybe tips and solutions to things, or if you're a strong stager, or if you're great at transformations, right? Like I love staging, and I love making spaces look different. If that's your thing, then how do you do that through technology? Well, we're all going to have to get a lot better at videoing ourselves and being comfortable with seeing ourselves, or videoing something happening and you're narrating it, right? Like we've got to just get creative. Where is here it is. This little thing, I love this. It's from Amazon. I think you can see it pretty well. Let's see here. There. It's from Amazon. It's a little phone stand. And it, it moves around and adjusts differently. But ultimately what it does is it really does work, I promise. I can prop my phone up on it. And so if I wanted to do video with it or whatever, I could. I also have a little thing that's like a suction cup that goes on the window, and then it has a clamp on it, so it'll clamp onto my phone. So you have to have those things in place to make it easy for you to do what you want to do, or you're not going to do it. It's just like if you want to eat well, you got to meal prep, because if you don't meal prep, you're just going to drive through and get some crappy food, right? So it's the exact same thing. You got to set yourself up for success by going ahead and getting some of those tools in place to do them. So, and then the third one is going to be identify one enemy of influence. So whether we're talking about being tired or whatever those things are, inauthenticity, tiredness, inconsistency, outside sources, whatever those things are that you see in yourself, identify those things. And then what practical goals or commitments can you make to actually overcome those? So whether it is, for instance, I do not schedule recruiting appointments past 4 o'clock, or any type of consultation for that matter. I don't schedule anything past 4 o'clock, because generally by 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, my level of tolerance, which is already very low, is non-existent. right? Because enough has been thrown at you, or me in particular, right? Throughout the day. I'm not going to speak for anybody else, but I know I'm not the only one. Enough has come at me during the day that by 4 o'clock or 5 o'clock, I'm probably not going to be on top of my game. When I first wake up in the morning, I am not a morning person. However, alarm, no alarm, whatever, I am wide awake at 6 o'clock. Like it just, even on days when I'm like, well, I'm going to sleep in today, and it just, I'm up at 6. I don't know why, but it happens. And it makes me mad, and I am not a cheery person in the morning. And so I know I don't generally make any calls until 8. Like I'll maybe call my admin or someone in my family before 8 because they know what to expect. But I won't have any like conversations that are really important until I've really gotten started with my day and I get invested. So that would be an example of what are some things that I can do to overcome those enemies that normally get in your way. What are some thoughts? What are some thoughts? What are some, anybody have any ahas today?
I just
Yeah.
think, oh, go ahead,
Sorry,
Lisa.
go ahead, Jamie.
Okay, fine. Your comment about what we were talking about, like just for me right now, it is fatigue of all sorts, like mental, emotionally, physically. But my kids were just gone for a week. And so that really did rejuvenate me in some ways. And so now that they're back, I'm like finding new ways to find that refreshing. And that has helped. Like I had a really great weekend. And so I came into the week like just feeling a lot better with where things are. So it's just kind of recognizing that and then taking some time to change it, which is hard.
It is.
Times, but you know, just doing different things to make myself feel better with that. Because I go to bed early, so it's not a sleep problem.
Well, but still, it goes back to that kill the thing that's comfortable, because if you slide right back into that comfort zone of what you did before, you're going to end up right back at that fatigued, tired, right thing all over again. Just the autopilot.
Yeah.
What else, Lisa?
I just want to say thank you for your beginning comments about going from this emotional roller coaster to this emotional roller coaster. I mean, it's a difficult market out there, even when you're trying to write offers and you're writing 6 or 7 for the same client. Just, it's like you forgot to give plasma in the offer. And it's just, it's so frustrating because you want to see them win a house and you just, I don't know. It's an emotional roller coaster out there right now.
It
So I
is.
appreciate it.
Yeah, no, you're more than welcome. Anybody else?
I found exercise helps a lot. It rejuvenates, it feeds your brain, it gets everything going. Even if you just walk, but be consistent with it, it clears a lot of cobwebs.
So what are you doing? Lucy, do you normally just get outside and walk? Do you have a treadmill? What works best for you? Oh, hi, baby. I guess you go outside.
We have to walk 3 times a day.
Yeah.
But then when that's done, then I can run. And if it's raining, then I have an elliptical.
And so question, when you're out walking, do you have your phone with you?
Only in case I fall over a dog, which I did on black ice. So, but I don't answer calls or make calls with it. I just have it in case I need it.
And I think that's key.
Yeah. But
Right?
no,
That's key.
No,
You
you've
kind of
got to
defeat
shut
the
it down.
purpose.
You just
Yeah.
got to shut it down.
Yeah. Thank you for that. Anybody else? Oh gosh, I don't want to talk about it. Mine is non-existent. Is that a not inconsistent or? Any other ahas? Was this a little bit helpful in just realizing we have to pour into ourselves and we have to just acknowledge that it is what it is and it's okay that it is what it is. We don't have to pretend like we're all okay with what's going on out here, and we don't have to pretend like we can take it all on ourselves and that, we're just going to turn the other cheek and all is well. Like, you don't have to pretend. I think we're all in very similar boats. We have different things going on, but I think that it's still just critical that you realize that you still have to work on yourself. And this is just a perfect, it sounds twisted, and it's a perfect circumstance for you to work on those things and literally pull yourself ahead when other people just aren't doing that right now. Any last thoughts? Thank you all. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of your day, and I will see you all tomorrow on Talk About It Tuesday. Bye, everybody.
Thanks, Kim. Bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.